Welcome to another edition of Action 14. I'm Mike Briggs, bringing you information about the arts, the schools, and the city. I want to welcome Dan Mella, Superintendent of the Plymouth School District. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mike.
We're going to talk about the school board meeting that is held the third Tuesday of every month. And before we get started with that, you've moved the time to 5:30 now. Okay, so school board meetings start at 5:30. Will that be continuous throughout the year?
Yes, we used to switch times to accommodate for people having their evenings in summer free and open. Now we just have our committee of the whole and the board meeting will be at 5:30 year round. So it's consistent and everybody knows when they are.
Generally, the school board meeting is the third Tuesday of the month. Your meeting of the whole is the Monday before that, 2 Mondays before that, actually.
Yeah, it's the second Monday of the month usually.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. All right, well, let's get started about, I think you brought some things up with the legislative update.
Right. We meet every month. The superintendents and some board members and some business managers from school districts meet every month with our legislators. So the legislators come in, they share what's happening in their world, we share what's happening in our world, and they'll typically ask us questions about what do we see coming, what do we see that we need. We advocate for things, they advocate for things with us. So it's a very good discussion every month. So currently, the discussion is around the budgeting process in the state, and then also the COVID relief funds, been referred to as the ESSER funds, the ESSER 2, the CARES Act. There were 2 during the Trump administration, and there's already 1 during the Biden administration. Each of those have varying amounts of funding for lots of different things, including the checks that were sent home to many, many people. But some of it is for school districts to take care of some of the expenses and costs incurred because of COVID.
And we did have some easy to explain expenses.
Right. We had you work in the technical, for all of our tech in our district, you work in that office every day. And we added a lot of tech. We added broadband for families that couldn't get broadband in the form of hotspots.
Right.
We added machines for the little ones because we needed to have some that were available for home and all of that. So, and a number of additional software pieces so that when kids were at home quarantined or maybe they had chosen the online option, I mean, there's an expense to all of that.
Right.
And so districts across the state, us included, laid out that expenditure at the cost of other parts of our budget. So all of this COVID relief funding is to offset what those expenditures were. And we also had personnel expenditures.
That's right. I think our viewing audience has to understand that we have teachers that their sole job is working with those virtual students.
Correct. That's a good example because we started for the first time, and with about a month to spare, we started a virtual schoolhouse at the elementary level. And so there were 2 full-time and 2 part-time, fully virtual, dedicated staff members to that program. And we had upwards of 45 and sometimes 50 children in that program. And from K through 4, and so they were working with those kids on a multi-grade band type of way and creating the curriculum as they went. And so we still had to have teachers back in the classroom for the students that didn't choose that option. So you can see that is an expense of 2.5 FTE, for example, full-time employees, which we wouldn't have otherwise had.
Right.
And so that's one example of many where we had personnel costs that increased because of COVID. And as we're looking forward to next year and as the budgeting process in the state is going on, the legislature and the fiscal and the financial fiscal bureau has to figure out, like, what are we gonna spend, like, this money on? And do the districts still need the money? Well, I spent an hour and a half listening to Ryan Westergaard last week, who is the state epidemiologist and in charge of the state's COVID response. And what he is indicating is that COVID will be with us through the beginning of next year. Many people are getting vaccinated, that will help, but we still are going to be having to deal with some of these effects from COVID. And so having a virtual option, having technology in case kids still are quarantined, all of those things may still be in existence, and he's saying they will be. And so these future CARES Act dollars are really kind of earmarked for those types of expenses that we might pull on. And so we want to make sure that the legislature knows, and we did, that we will have increased expenses again next year, and it's COVID related, and those COVID funds are for that, but we also have our regular inflationary types of things, your health care and heating costs and all of that, that we shouldn't just rely on the federal money. We need to continue our normal, typical increases in funding for education, apart from the COVID idea.
Now think about every classroom in this district had to be set up to be virtual. Virtually every teacher, microphone, camera, and licensing to be able to be virtual with whoever is logging in. And when you add up all of those classrooms, it's a tremendous stress on our staff, at the same time as stress on the budget.
Right, right. And it most likely is going to be that way, at least through some part of next year.
Right.
And so we have to, I mean, we're advocating that, you know, we have our normal budgetary cycle increases for education in the state, but that, you know, those unrelated to whether or not we're getting X amount with the COVID relief funds.
It's going to be, we see light at the end of the tunnel. We really do. I'm very positive about, and feel positive about how the school is handling everything. But we're a long ways from getting out of that tunnel.
Right, yep. You think we are, but then you look at the data and you look at Michigan and Minnesota, everybody around us is having a bit of a surge, so hopefully we can keep it away from us.
Right. Now, I know, getting back to the school board meeting, Dina Budrecki spoke to the board regarding college credits. The best credits a student can get financially are in high school.
Right, and most parents know about the opportunity, high school parents know about the opportunities that we offer here at in our district for kids to take a class in high school that counts for 3 or 4 college credits at an expense of around $100 per credit.
Isn't that?
Which
it's a tenth of what it costs at some universities.
Very less than expensive than what it is.
You're learning that, aren't you?
Right. I've got 2 in college right now, and I'm panhandling on the side. Yes, there are a number of different ways for our students to earn college credit, and she gave a great presentation. We have college credits that are available to students through what's called AP, where they take a class and they ultimately pay for a test, and if they get a certain grade on that test, most colleges will count that as credit to start their college career. We have dual college credit, which is called CAP classes or dual college credit, where you take the class taught by one of our teachers, but it is through the University of Oshkosh or the University of Green Bay or Lakeland. And so it is actually a transcripted credit. So you'll take, for example, advanced biology, and you'll get a B or higher in that class. And that Oshkosh now will put a B in Biology 105 on your transcript.
Right.
And at Oshkosh, that counts for 5 credits. And so that transfers throughout the state and the state system and most other colleges as well.
And they'll have a calculus class will also be involved in that. Maybe a business ed class.
Right.
all meaning you're getting a high school credit to graduate, but at the same time, you're getting college credits at a very reduced rate.
Right. So you can have a student, I think your son Steve is a good example. I've had three that are doing that process now, or have done already and are doing that process.
Yeah.
They're all going to college, and when they're starting college, they're starting as a second semester sophomore in some cases.
Yes. With Steve's situation, he went to Marquette, and which is not
Those are not inexpensive credits.
a rather expensive college, and he graduated with a business and foreign business degree in 3.5 years. And if you can save, in this case, he probably saved him 1 semester, possibly 2 semesters, by having these high school college classes. And so you subtract that on what Marquette charges, there was a happy family.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And so he was able to focus on his major early. And also, when students sign up for next year's classes, he was ahead of everyone else because he's a sophomore and everyone else is still a freshman.
Right, they don't have to wait till the very end to register, and so they got to angle to get in.
He picked every class he wanted and before they were full.
Yeah, a lot of benefits to
Yes.
these types of classes. There are also classes that allow you to take courses for certifications, for example. Welding is a good example that we have here. In our our college and technical education courses, we have a number of them. Welding as an example, you can take our 1 and 2, Welding 1 and Welding 2 classes, and then do the assessment that's required at the end of that. And you have a welding certificate that you can use, and you could take it and go into Kurt Joa, for example, or another local company, and they know, because you've got that certification, that you are X quality of a welder, which means they can start with you and they know, I can give this person some starting tasks, we can keep training them, keep them working and growing, and they're gonna move along faster for their own career. But the businesses also know they've got somebody who has some starting expertise and is kind of dedicated to this. So that's another example of it. We also have youth apprentices and blended things like internships. And so all of the options that are out there, from going directly into the world of work but getting certifications for that, going to a 2-year college and getting credits for those 2-year colleges, some of those business courses like accounting are good examples of that.
Yeah.
Or moving on and going to a 4-year school and getting some credits that you're taking care of and getting out of the way sometimes. Maybe they're not in your major, but then you can get to your major quicker. All of them help kids get into their career pathway and really get some thought put into it, but also it saves them some money.
Absolutely.
So it was just a good example of, I think you can get, you couldn't do it, but there are 55 different options, different credit options that you can do here at Plymouth High School.
And a full-time college student, how many credits is a normal semester?
It's about 12 to 15 is
Yeah.
what I understand is normal in most schools.
Yeah, and so you can actually realistically complete a year's worth of credits. Realistically. Right here at Plymouth High School.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
they don't have to be necessarily in their major that you're looking at, but you get your math out of the way, you get your English out of the way, you get your science out of the way.
Right.
And those all, then you can go towards your major much quicker.
Right. Yep.
It was a good presentation by Dina, a lot of nice questions by the school board. I'm glad it worked out that way.
Yeah, it was very good.
Moving on, we have some revisions now happening, still changes in COVID and how we're dealing things at the high school. I know last time you were sitting here, we talked about bringing everyone back. We've done that.
Correct. We keep, looking at the guidance that we're getting from the state health services, the county health services, and as numbers are good, we have the Sheboygan County is in good shape, the state's in pretty decent shape. So our opportunity to bring people back and bring all the high school kids back for every day instead of every other day are just an example of that. And we're constantly looking at those options and making decisions on a weekly basis. How many kids are allowed into the weight room? Can we use the showers in and out of the in and out of the pool? Those kinds of things are being changed and updated as long as the numbers stay good, every day.
And they have, the numbers have been very good.
Right. So some of the things that we're also looking at are things like summer school. We're going to offer summer school last year. We didn't the year before. We will have some outdoor and some indoor. We're going to, we'll have social distancing and we'll follow the guidelines. And those guidelines might change. I have heard rumors that outdoor mask wearing for activities may be that recommendation may be going away soon. So we follow those recommendations as they come through. And then we're also planning for next school year.
Right.
So if COVID is going to be with us yet, things like maintaining this A-B schedule at the high school helps us minimize the number of kids that might be exposed to somebody who was positive, which would minimize the number of kids who would have to miss because of quarantine.
Now, it does eliminate, it means less time in the hallway.
It means less time in the hallway, and if you're only in 4 classes during a day, and you so you were sitting, instead of 8, you were sitting by half the number of kids that you would have otherwise been.
On a daily basis.
On a daily basis. So those kinds of things, the teams that helped create the schedules and the processes for this year that helped us have an almost completely full school year are the same teams that are working on how do we start next year and move through next year. Some of the things we learned, the pickup and drop off at the elementary schools, which, we eliminated that time where the kids stay in the playground area and wait, and then they line up and then they all come in at once. Well, now, because of COVID, they get dropped off, and we have different entries and exits for different grade levels.
Right.
So they're walking right to their entry, and they're going right into their classroom, and they're sitting in, and they're getting in their spaces. It's been a real positive. Sometimes kids on the playground get mad at each other, and they're playing right away. So they start their day with a little fight with one of their little friends, and so then their days start off bad. Now they're all kind of coming in, and it's a nicer start to the day. With or without COVID, we're probably going to continue that into the future.
Sure.
So some of those planning things that you don't think about very often, but you realize this is a better way. We're continuing with some of those.
To wrap things up, we're running out of time, but we should mention that you did have some retirees, very experienced retirees that are getting out of the business. We've lost several over this year. It's been a big year.
It has.
Possibly the pressure of COVID, all the changes of being on microphones and on cameras all the time.
Right. It was and continues to be a lot of work and stress, and people that I think have gone in and have been working at home also experience this in whatever business they're in.
Yep.
You're basically working 24 hours a day now because you're always hooked to your computer. The computer's always on. If somebody wants to call you on 10 o'clock, same thing happens with teachers. Somebody needs help on their homework. Yep. Probably going to help them, even if it's at 9 o'clock. So those things are happening. But yeah, we always have a few people who get to that age, and it's time to look at retirement. And this year we're losing over 100, just in this one meeting. We had some other ones already, and we might have a couple more. Just in this last board meeting, we lost people with experience, more than 100 years worth of experience. And that is very, very hard to replace. Those people were instrumental in our ability to run things this year because they were parts of those teams. But they've also been instrumental in just making the Plymouth School District a great place over their entire careers.
Yeah. I'm not going to mention their names. I was going to, but we're running a little short on time. Instead, I want to remind everyone, summer school. We need teachers and aides for summer school. Summer school this year probably is the most important summer school that we're going to have because we want to get kids caught up. And we do need staff members, anyone out there that's willing to give us some benefit of their knowledge here to help us get through summer school.
Right, we absolutely need people to help out and work. We have a special program called COVID Catch-Up as part of it, where
Yep.
you're working with a small group of students on a specific set of skills. But we also still have our old school, summer school with outdoor games and
Yep.
swimming and all that. So we definitely need people. We realize people are burned out. But we're hoping that we can make a plea to
Yep.
come on back and let's make summer
Give
school
us,
happen.
give us 5 weeks
Give us 5 weeks.
of 4 days a week. That's all we're asking, and
Right.
please help us.
Right.
I want to mention before we go that everything's in business with the athletics, track, soccer, softball, golf, baseball, tennis starts up next week. Everything is happening here. We are getting back, and I'm feeling so good about the athletic program, getting back and seeing the kids running, and it's great.
It is great. I thought with that warm weather we were having that we would have a weird, unseasonable start to softball and track, which is usually cold and in the snow. No. As soon as we started, the temperature dropped down to 40, and we started having snow showers again.
It's been a crazy year. We're not done yet, but graduation is June 6th. And we're still making decisions whether we're going to have it at the park or we're going to have it possibly on our football field. We're still looking at all the options. We'll be making a decision very soon.
Yep.
Well, thank you again for being on.
Thank you for having me.
I want to remind everybody again that the meetings that they have for student council are held in the amphitheater at 7:30 p.m. on the third Tuesday of every month.
For the school board?
For the school board.
At 5:30.
5:30, used to be.
Used to be.
Yeah, 5:30, every third Tuesday.
Correct.
Thank you again.
Yep, thank you.
When we come back, I've got the mayor is going to be sitting in the hot seat, and I'm going to see if I can get some answers from him. So stay right with us. You're watching Action 14. Welcome back to Action 14. As promised, I've got the mayor in the hot seat. Welcome to Action 14.
Thank you, Mike. It's always a pleasure to be with you and our TV viewers, and hopefully we can give them some updates and some answers as you indicated here.
I have, just for the record, I have put my shovel away. I'm not going to be shoveling any more snow, and are they starting to clean things up down at the city to say it's time to put some of those items in the back?
A vicious rumor only is that we took all the plows off of the trucks last week. So everybody has to kind of like say a little one for us, because that's a day's work, and we don't want to put them back on. So we're going to let the sun do the melting
That's
from
right.
here on.
And looking back on the winter, from my community area, I thought the city did a fantastic job keeping up with the snow and slush and everything this year.
I've heard that from several people, and I do think that your analysis is correct, because we didn't seem to have the extremes. And we did change our plowing operations a little bit, again, due to COVID. You know, there's been some good changes from COVID where we stagger the operators from the simple standpoint that we can't have everybody in the room at the same time. And so we've got things coming and going, and it's actually, instead of having a 5-hour plow time, we've now stretched it to a 7-hour, which still lets us get people and equipment to the most important intersection, crosswalk, et cetera. And we've had to maybe have people be more familiar with different parts of the city, instead of they always plowed, you know, this district or this district. But it has, again, given us different advantages that we're going to be reviewing and trying to figure out if going forward we're going to stay with the same operation or not. But quite honestly, it was a very mild winter, so
Yes, yes, it was.
we don't mind that.
You'll be
That was
carrying-
good for us.
You'll be carrying a little salt over to next year.
We definitely are gonna modify our salt purchase this year, which has gone up 20 cents a ton.
Oh, yeah.
It's very expensive, so, yeah, we're looking at some reduced costs there.
Okay. Could you give me an update on the Smith Street Road construction? Things are blocked up and it looks like a mess to me, but everything's in good shape, I'm sure.
It's a very organized mess to, I guess, us being the viewers of it. The project got off to a great start. They were able to get all the concrete out of the way and scheduling for the sewer and the water process of the project. And it's a $1 million project. It's a very expensive project, but we were fortunate to be the first on the contractor's schedule for this summer. And I think that getting that jump on it, the weather cooperated, we were able to really make some headway fast, and they got things removed to the point where now they're really starting to get into the meat of the subject, which is, of course, the sewer and water laterals. And that's gonna take a lot of coordination to go on, but hopefully we don't have the rain problems that we've had in previous years by being 2-3 weeks ahead of the whole system-wide process. So we're very hopeful, and we're on schedule, a little ahead of schedule. But, you know, they can't go to the next job until they finish us. So,
Okay.
so in a way, that's a nice thing to be.
Yeah.
So we're pushing, and they're doing a good job.
Now, you are saving the taxpayers' money because it's not just road work. You're taking care of the water and sewer at the same time as opposed to a separate dig up. You know?
Right, yeah, and that sharing the cost, overall, there's about a 30% savings because we are implementing our partnering with the utility work that has to be done, and that also helps us with our annual lead replacement obligation that we have an agreement with the DNR to do. And so we're knocking off system-wide different pieces of this big puzzle that was 5 or 6 years in the planning stage, and it's helping us save money on both the utility and the city side, and it's giving our crews the time to attack something very intensified, which means that they're not going back and forth to the same job, doing things over and over again, or redigging.
Right.
And like you said, the savings, once we put the concrete down, everything underneath is done. And that's a big savings. Plus, we're moving our connection, instead of in the middle of the roadway, we're now moving it to between the curb and the sidewalk. And so that'll help us down the road. If we do have problems with different homeowners, we'll be able to attack it from the curbside rather than from the middle of the road, and start looking like we're doing a patch quilt approach to things,
Okay.
which none of us ever understood, but that's because we don't do the work. You know, you only do it when the demand is there. So I think the plan that we started 3-4 years ago is working well, and it's paying its dividends, and we're saving money.
Good, good. I'm hearing from a lot of people, including, I believe it myself, that the community is getting back to some type of normal. We're slowly but surely getting back to some normality.
I think we are, Mike. It's encouraging to see some of the restrictions lifted, people being more comfortable, and it really was a hard year last year for businesses in town, and we want to give a shout out to all of our residents to patronize the local merchants and restaurants and establishments, because they need to have a busy year so that they can continue to stay in business. And we've had a couple new businesses actually open up on Mill Street. We have a couple more that we're talking to.
Okay.
And until they kind of get to the level where they're comfortable, they're not going to necessarily pull the trigger yet. But it's very encouraging. I've talked with several restaurants. In the past couple weeks, they've actually had more in-service dining than they did carry-out.
Oh.
And of course, Friday night is a big carry-out night. It's still very popular, and we're thankful that people want to do that. But it is picking up inside as well, and that's important, not just on Friday night, but all week long. And so we need your patronage, and we really want to encourage people to go out and socialize once again. Do it properly, be careful, be respectful. But I think that that's something as a community that we're a little different than maybe some larger cities where people are accustomed to being more respectful.
And at the same time, if you haven't been carrying out, do that too.
Absolutely.
We still carry out once or twice a week to support our local businesses.
Yeah,
And
that's
so,
right.
please continue to do that so that the restaurants and shops will be open when this is all done.
Absolutely.
Moving on, I've been hearing a lot of, I know that we've talked about the railroad crossing and the concerns there. I've heard a lot about, are we going to get some flashing lights in front of some of our railways?
I think the simple answer to that isn't necessarily the answer a lot of people want to hear, in that the answer isn't yes, and the answer isn't no. So much of this is out of the local control of us as being local officials. The state commissioner of railroads is the one who makes the decision, and they're a very independent group of people. They are still going through the different studies and testimony that was given now 3 years ago, and we don't know necessarily when they'll come down with the decision. There's always funding from the state that precipitates some of that process, and we're in line in '23 to receive some of that money. So there is some coordination there. We did kind of preempt trying to find out on a planning side of things where and when we can try to move this thing forward. And we did get some correspondence from Wisconsin Southern Railroad that we asked them to do some preliminary study work, and it'll run us maybe $3,000, $3,500 per crossing in order to have them do that study. It's going to it has to be tweaked. It's not a full engineering study, but it's enough of an idea that they can give us guidelines on what requirements might be necessary for each individual crossing. So we've got 5, 6 crossings we're looking at, $3,000 a piece. So we could spend $15,000 or $20,000 to get a handle on this. And I think that that's a fair number to find out exactly how we're going to approach it, and then depending on the priority that the state puts down, which ones we can do first. If they approve South Street, we can't use that money for Highland, for example. Okay. It has to be used for whatever they designate it at. We also were told that each crossing is probably in the neighborhood of 225,000. So it's not cheap.
Right.
And that's, I'm gonna call it the basics. When you start adding cross arms and lights and crossing for sidewalk crossings, now we're starting to get into the 275, the 350 range.
Wow.
And so the numbers add up real quick, and that's per crossing. So we're not talking for the whole kit and caboodle, and unless we get some federal funding or state funding, which we are designated in 23 if funds are available for actually at South Street that they did designate. We're gonna have to look at some alternative approaches to funding that where there seems to be the greatest need. And no matter what we say the need is, until the Commissioner of Railroads agrees with us, there's nothing we can do. We don't make those decisions, and there isn't anybody that I know, and I've known 3 or 4 commissioners, I don't have enough, shall we say, strength in my arm to twist their arm to get that answer. So it's just a waiting game, and in the meantime, we try to use every precaution we can.
It's gonna be a long time before, and you know that too, before we complete that project.
Yeah, we're looking in the out years, 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, we certainly caution people to be
Sure.
careful.
I think Plymouth is blessed to have such a marvelous downtown playground with the Stayer Park and Lions Club playground. But unfortunately, I've been hearing that we've had some vandalism going on down there, and we need to talk to everybody out there and say, we're blessed to have what we have. Let's all take good care of it and certainly not vandalize it.
Well, sadly, I guess we have to sometimes report the bad news with the good news, and it was such a tremendous community project that came together, and it's used constantly, no matter what the weather is. I've seen people out there when it's sprinkling, and it's tremendous. But I guess I would make a personal appeal to people that go down there, walk around, enjoy it. Keep your cell phone handy. If you spot something that you don't think is quite right, take a picture and then relay that to the police department or city hall. And our problems are local teens, and we've added more lights. We are putting cameras in, so those teens that are listening or their parents that are listening, tell them, you better be careful. The bathrooms, you mentioned that, and that cost us $90,000. We've already spent $10,000 in repairs. It's just destructive vandalism, and if it gets to the point where we have so much vandalism, I hate to say it, one of our options is to lock the doors.
Right.
And then only have them open from 10 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. We can't have somebody standing there guarding the bathroom door, for heaven's sakes. So we need people to be on the alert, and if they see something, say something. We're doing more patrols, we're doing different things. This is just sheer vandalism, and there's no reason for that. And we all want to enjoy it, but I would hope that some of the people who are causing the problem, you don't need a vandalism on your permanent record growing up. then your job opportunities diminish when you don't have enough respect for public and private property. And that's a terrible thing to say, but, you know, put your thinking cap on, and we know it's local because we have a pretty good idea who the 10 or 12 are, and we're watching them, and we are going to come down hard on them. There's going to be a price to pay for destroying, breaking, damaging property that has been such a tremendous asset downtown. And with all the activities that we have downtown in the summer, the river walk is being used tremendously. Summer's coming, people are walking around, tourism is coming into town. We need these facilities so that people don't have to worry about being down here all day. And when they're down there all day, they spend money and they participate in the community. So help us out, people.
Make sure we have such a marvelous downtown and playground area. Let's keep it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for being on.
You're welcome.
I should-
Always a pleasure.
I should remind everybody that City Council has their meetings on the second and last Tuesday of every month, starting at 7 p.m. now.
7 o'clock, yep.
And so be part of what's happening in the city, ask questions, and hopefully we'll get through all of this and we'll have more good news next month.
I think we will.
When we come back, we're going to be talking Arts Center, and some great things are coming into Plymouth in the next month. So stay right with us. You're watching Action 14. Welcome back to Action 14. We're going to be talking about some great things coming to downtown Plymouth. And I've got Jackie Jarvis here to talk about them. And you're actually involved not only in the Arts Center, but you're also involved with the Plymouth Advance Association. And you're the perfect person to come in and talk about what's coming in this month.
Right.
Yeah, I'm driving through downtown every day seeing, have they poured anything yet? Is anything being done? And they've got 1 month to finish it. What is coming to Plymouth?
Yes. Well, we have some exciting news. There's going to be a cheese capital of the world, arch and trestle. A nice addition to the city of Plymouth. And we're just, hoping that it generates a lot of interest. We're going to have a celebration at the end of this month. And thank you for having us on to share more of this great news. And
It is just beautiful. You can see a bit of it that is to my right. And it's going to be, as you enter across the bridge and are looking right at the Arts Center, you are going to have this arch.
yes,
And 25 feet high, and it will say Plymouth Cheese Capital.
yes. It will have cheese on one side, capital on the other, and then the middle, it will have the cheese capital of the world emblem. This originally began about 2 years ago. The Redevelopment Authority, that's where it started. John Nelson, city council person, he brought it forward. He was a member of the RDA, and I'm on the RDA as well. And if you know, the precursor to the RDA was the Downtown Revitalization Committee. So they were charged with trying to help support and bolster a thriving and vital downtown with shops, organizations, dining. So then the Redevelopment Authority came to be probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and that actually is a legal arm of the city of Plymouth, and it has statutory authority to purchase property, do some things that the Downtown Revitalization Committee could not. So that group, the charge of the Redevelopment Authority is the entire city, but they aim a lot of their efforts at the downtown and trying to support the, building character, the historic nature, which the arch provides. It will be one bookend to what we're calling the new gateways.
Yeah, we should mention that not only are we getting the arch that will be near the bridge as you are coming down to the Arts Center, on the other side of east of Mill Street,
Right.
down by the cow, the railroad trestle is getting painted, and it's going to have a logo on it also.
Yes. Originally, the Redevelopment Authority looked at the design of having two of these street arches. One where we're talking about near the railroad trestle, and the other on what we're calling the eastern end of Mill Street downtown. And we just decided, the group decided that it was a little too busy because the railroad trestle was right there, the arch would have been in front of that, there's a lot of signage and it's a busy corner. So it ended up that, you know, the trestle hasn't been painted for over 30 years.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, it's not that appealing anymore. The paint is faded, and so that will be repainted black. And then there will be the cheese capital of the world emblem on both sides in the center.
That's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, we're looking
Yeah.
forward to it.
And it will all be completed by May 29th. That's when the party starts. There's going to be a ribbon cutting, et cetera, starting at 10 a.m. on Saturday, the 29th.
Right.
And it'll go from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., where most of the activity will happen at the Arts Center.
Correct.
We've got everything from brats, free cheese probably,
Yes, I
and
think that's coming.
something they should sign up for, ice cream.
Yes, a family ice cream making activity will be held at the Plymouth Arts Center. You'll need to sign up in advance just because there's capacity restrictions on that, but that will be free. And Compure Financial is supporting that project for everybody to enjoy.
At 10 o'clock, after the ribbon cutting, et cetera, actually, part of your grant writing is supporting someone to come and speak.
Yes, the Wisconsin Humanities awarded the Plymouth Arts Center a grant, and that will help support Dan Buckman, who is the president of the Plymouth Historical Society. He is going to be giving a 45-minute presentation at the Arts Center in the Great Room at about 10:45. It will go about 45 minutes. And he will be presenting on local cheese factory history. And I think a lot of your viewers will be very interested in this, and I know that you'll be covering it. But he will give a slideshow and talk about a number of the early cheese factories. And it's been really interesting learning a lot about our cheese history as a process
Like
of...
Cheeseville.
Yes, originally we were Cheeseville. And so Dan, in the heyday of the individual cheese factory, there were 125 cheese factories. I think it was around 1905 when it peaked. And so he's going to be pulling some of the history of some of the more interesting ones, or ones that there might be something that people will remember. So that's a great opportunity for everybody
And,
to
you know,
partake
it's
in.
not just the cheese factories around here, but actually, when I was growing up on a farm on the other side of the state,
Yeah.
I knew about Plymouth because at that time, it's been a few years ago, at that time on the family farm, we had a community cheese factory and cooperative, if you will, and the price of cheese was actually set in Plymouth at that time. Plymouth actually set the price of cheese, and it affected every cheese factory,
Right.
including this small one where I grew up.
Yeah, and you know, that eventually became the Wisconsin Cheese Exchange. I think it started in 1908, and it continued to be the functioning entity for setting the national price of cheese until 1960 in
Yeah.
Plymouth, and then it moved to Green Bay, and now it's part of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. But yes, so this just amazing stuff.
Isn't it?
You know, talking with people as we're fundraising for the arch and the trestle, just the stories that people had to share, that everybody has some kind of relation to the cheese and dairy and farming industries.
And what I was impressed with, it's going to happen Saturday the 29th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. If it rains that day, it'll be Sunday.
Right,
We'll
at
do it
noon.
Sunday at the same time, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
I think noon on Sunday.
Noon then up on
Yes.
Sunday? But you gathered together many organizations. It's not just the Plymouth Arts Center and the Plymouth Advancement Association, but also the Plymouth Historical Society is involved and the Plymouth Chamber. Everybody's getting together for the 29th to make this special.
Yes, yes, it should be a great day. Like you said, there'll be some tours led at the Plymouth Historical Society, the talk by Dan Buckman at the Art Center, ice cream social, ice cream making. There will be some business specials. We're working on coordinating some prizes and some drawings. Of course, there'll be the brat fry, Keith Abler and Friends.
That's right, we've got a band playing.
They'll be outside on the plaza. And, you know, for people that are concerned about social distancing, I think this is a good venue. People can stay outside if they choose to and enjoy the arch. And you can walk down to the other end of the downtown and see the trestle.
And as long as you're walking from the new arch to the painting of the trestle, go by all the wall dog and pick up a sheet of paper that explains each one and visit them on the way down and on the way back. It's going to be a great experience.
Yes, yes. The wall dogs, the murals, they're actually maps that the chamber has created. They're wonderful. And you can walk around and there's QR scans where you can listen to the explanations and the history behind the murals. So it's really, you know, that on top of everything else is great. And, you know, that leads into what the Plymouth Advancement Association is doing.
Yes.
They're, you know, besides spearheading this project of the, you know, the bookends, the gateways for downtown, the historic downtown Plymouth, we're also focusing on the wall dogs murals. On August 25th, they'll be coming to town again.
Right, from the 25th to the 29th, they're coming back to Plymouth, the wall dog folks, and they're going to be doing 4.
Yes,
And then repainting and touching up
right.
all of them. So it's going to be brighten everything up.
Yes.
Plus, we're getting 4 new ones, and they're really kind of fun ones.
Yes.
I'm not going to tell everybody what they are, but it's everything. I will tell you. I have to say one, a brat stand. Some of us remember that.
Yes, it'll be Fryman's. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but there will be a mural of that.
And the Miller Bakery. Again, things that we remember.
Right.
I do.
Right. Yeah.
And then there'll be 2 others, but one is the fire station, I
Right.
know. But the best part is that they're going to be touching them up. Some of them do need a little bit of work.
Yep.
But it's all going to happen on August 25th through the 29th, and I'm sure there'll be a couple gatherings
Yes.
around the wall dogs coming back to Plymouth.
Right. We're hoping to make it a community-wide celebration again, just like what's going to be happening on May 29th. And, you know, if people are still interested in supporting the project, we're about 2/3 of the way in terms of fundraising. The cost for both of the trestle and the arch is about $160,000. We've had some generous contributions so far. City of Plymouth, the Plymouth Advancement Association, Sartori, Sargento, Masters Gallery, the Plymouth Lions Club, Great Lakes Cheese. Those are some of the, you know, the obvious big sponsors that we're very grateful for
And so
their
you're
support.
about 2/3 already of having things taken care
Yes.
of there, which is very
Yes,
nice at this
yes,
point.
Yeah, and it's just going to be a great character building part of downtown where visitors, residents, shoppers, diners, they'll remember the unique character of being in a downtown that's called the cheese capital of the world,
Yes.
which is trademarked.
Yes, it is, and it's going to be a fantastic month, because the month of May, you haven't started yet. They've got to
Right.
pour some cement, put some poles up. It's
yes.
going to be a busy month of May, and then put on your calendar the 29th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. down at the Arts Center. To be at the ribbon cutting, go to the Arts Center, hear a story about all the cheese factories that have come and gone, and some are still here in the Plymouth area.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. You know, it started with the Redevelopment Authority, and then, you know, the Plymouth Advancement Association offered to take it on, you know, the project coordination, and of course, Lee Gentine being on the Redevelopment Authority
Yes.
and the Plymouth Advancement, the president of the Plymouth Advancement Association is just a, you know, an amazing asset to the city of Plymouth, his
Yes.
dedication and motivation. I mean, it's practically a full-time job, you know, coordinating all the companies involved with the arch and the trestle,
Yep.
all the logistics with the state and the city and the approvals and the fundraising and.
And you've gotten the news out, because I can tell you, it's been a couple weeks ago, I'm watching Channel 4 News with my morning coffee a little after 6 a.m., and all of a sudden, they're talking about the cheese capital of the
Yeah.
world on the Milwaukee
Right.
television station, and then I look it up, and it was on the news in Green Bay TV station, and that made all the papers.
Yeah, yeah, people are talking about it.
They're talking.
You know, it's not hard to promote the cheese capital of the world just because it's so unique.
Yeah.
And it's really special that we have that ability to call
Well,
ourselves
I
that.
want to thank you for coming in and telling everybody to mark the 29th of May on your calendar, because we're going to be celebrating some great things
Yeah.
in Plymouth.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mike, and thanks a lot for Donna Hahn, the executive director at the Art Center, for suggesting that we utilize her spot to promote the new arch and trestle.
It's going to be a great, we'll talk more about it in June, because it'll be up, and I'll be able to tell you about how all of it's going.
Yeah, can't
Yes,
wait.
but thank you again.
All right, thanks, Mike.
And I want to thank you folks for being with us, and until next time, I'll see you on the radio. Bye-bye.